And we're live.
Hi. Okay, hi everyone. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Helena Miller. I am a clinical nutritionist here at Gilead Healing Center. I've been here for, I believe we've been here 7 years, maybe even going on 8. It's been a blessing. If you've never been to Gilead Healing Center, we have a lot to offer here. This place is one of a kind, probably in the country. We have clinical nutrition here, we have chiropractic care here, we have a massage therapist here, we have Christian counselors here, we have a prayer team that comes here, we have an infrared sauna here, we have foot detox bath here, so we've got a lot of services here that are in one place that are all congruent and all in the belief that the body is the temple and it can heal itself the way God intended, but we are far too toxic and far too deficient, and that's why we need help, okay? Tonight we're talking about healthy families because this is near and dear to my heart. I have a family and I want my family to be healthy, but I hope I get the pleasure of helping a lot of families do just that. And so I want to start with this because I think a lot of you, especially mothers, can relate to this. This says, I'm afraid you have what's known as children. Remember, you go to the doctor's office and they give you a diagnosis. Well, this could have been me years ago for sure. This is not too far from me when I first started having children. I was feeling not so great. It takes a lot out of you to make a person, and I made 2, and that was, in my 30s and up until the age of 40, and I remember feeling something kind of like that. Like I just wasn't myself. I felt tired all the time. I had achy joints even at age 38, 40. I didn't really know what I didn't know about food or how to care for myself, and here I'm raising 2 children. And so I think a lot of women can definitely relate to that. Maybe men too, who knows? But this is how it started for me. This was my firstborn child. I was a sick mom. I was a very sick mom. I had preeclampsia. It started at 29 weeks gestation. And I remember going to my checkup with my OB-GYN, and they said my blood pressure was through the roof, and they did my urine test, and I dumped proteins in my urine, and guess what? You get bed rest for however long we can keep her in, okay? So that ended up being 3 weeks of bed rest. I had to lay on my left side for the most of the time. I could get up to, shower and cook for myself, but I was to be on my left side as much as possible because that was how my blood pressure was the best. 3 weeks later, I'm still dumping proteins, and I'm at the max level that they let you dump. And so, I think it was like 5,000 or something was the number. And so off to Spiro I go for an emergency C-section. That wasn't fun at all. That was a very, very scary time. And this is what I birthed, a 2-pound, 14-ounce baby. Her skin was translucent. My husband's wedding ring could fit on her wrist like a bracelet. She was in NICU for 3 weeks. She did really well, thankfully. She could have been way worse. I'm trained as a respiratory therapist also. I did that for 20 years. And so I knew very well what the risks were of having a premature baby. I knew what could happen because I had worked on them, But she did really well, thankfully. I brought her home at 3 pounds, 14 ounces. They usually don't let babies go home that weight. They wanted at least 4 pounds, but because of my background, my history, they felt comfortable. She didn't fit in a normal car seat. I had to take a car bed. I had to rent a car bed from Spiro Hospital to take her home. So she would lie down in this car bed in the back seat. But she grew and she did fine. But man, I didn't know what I didn't know. I had awful cravings like most pregnant women do, and I let myself eat whatever I craved like most pregnant women do, right? We're supposed to get a free pass on that. So my cravings were honeycombs and root beer, and so I ate all the honeycombs and I drank all the root beers, mostly Faygo, some A&W. So much so that at my baby shower, my mom bought me a family-sized box of honeycombs as a gift at my baby shower, and I ate the whole thing. I didn't share not one bit of it. But, you know, in hindsight, and looking back, and I'm like, no wonder I struggled making a person, right? Like, I just didn't know what I didn't know about food. I didn't realize that that was toxin that I was consuming nearly every day while I was pregnant. I had no idea. And that's where we are today. Parents, we just don't know what we don't know. And so that's why this class is so important, because there's so much you have to know this day in order to have a healthy family, be healthy yourself. No longer are the days of just raising your family and you don't have to think about it. My grandmother, she died when she was 96, she didn't have to think about nutritional supplements and detoxification and all the things, right? How much, if you get enough protein, if you're getting enough fat, if you're doing enough exercise, because they did it all, right? They ate from the land, they had animals, they ate from animals, they bartered. Her majority of her life, she ate real food. It wasn't until probably the last 10 years of her life that she would drive through a McDonald's or a Wendy's and carry a burger, right? But most of the time she ate real food, and she worked outside, and she had a garden, and she did all the things, right? We don't have that anymore. We don't have that longevity anymore that just comes naturally. We have to really work for it, okay? We have to really work for it. So it's a challenge, but we gotta rise up, and it starts with us. The younger you start with your children, introducing real food and the why behind how you feed them and what you should do, you know, keeping busy, get off the tablet, get off the gaming system, whatever it is. The younger you start with them, the better it is. Because if you wait till they're teenagers, it's gonna be hard. It's hard to budget teenagers anyway. But if you wait, then it's harder. It can be done, but it is harder. When Mama Bear, particularly when Mama Bear gets healthy, it trickles down to baby bears. It just does, because we run the roost, right? We're buying the stuff, we're cooking the stuff, we're packing the lunches, we're doing all the things, so that's super important. It starts with Mama Bear, or Papa Bear for sure, but Mama Bear. And we're in control. We're absolutely in control. If you don't buy it, they won't eat it. Here are two people that I learned from early on, Dr. Price and Dr. Pottinger. Dr. Price was a dentist, and he traveled to native parts of the world and studied oral health, teeth, mouth structure, facial structures of native peoples. And he found them to enjoy exuberant health. They had wonderful straight teeth. They fit all their teeth, their jaw structure, facial structure, all of it. And he studied all types of people, and when he looked outside, take those same people who went maybe into a more Western culture, it only took 3 generations to really see sickness. It would change, their health and jaw structure and dental caries would come after 1 generation of eating out away from the norm, but by 3 generations they were sickly. And he discovered this back in, like, I think in the 30s. And then there was a Dr. Pottinger. He studied cats, and he studied the effect of food on cats. So he had different groups of cats. One cat would eat, they'd feed them raw meat, raw cod liver oil, and raw milk. And the other group of cats, he would feed cooked meat, the cod liver oil and the raw milk. And he noticed changes in their behaviors and their quality of life, their fur, their teeth, all of the things in the group that had the cooked meat. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you this junk that we're feeding our cats is probably not the best thing for them? But even further than that, he noticed that this was happening in humans as well. So I consider myself a third generation Pottinger's cat. Okay, my grandmother had 10 children. They lived through all of the things, right, back then. But my mother was sicker at a much earlier age. She gave birth to 2 low birth weight babies, myself being one of them. She did have 1 miscarriage. Then I come along. I'm sick my whole life, pretty much. I had allergies and asthma my whole life up until I started taking care of this vessel. And then I have what you saw earlier. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a Pottinger's cat. It's a nutritional foundation loss from generation to generation to generation. My generation, here come the microwaves and the TV dinners and all the things, right? And so my body nourishment wasn't as good as my 96-year-old grandmother. Do you see what I'm saying? So a generational decline of health is where we're at today, to the point where 54% of our children are chronically ill. Okay, this is a big problem. If I ever got 54% on a test, guess what? It's a big fat fail. I don't know why we as people are settling for this type of statistic with our children. Because if they're already chronically ill, that's 1 or more diagnoses as a child, what are they going to be like in their 30s and 40s? Are they going to make it to their 50s and 60s? We don't know yet, right? This is a big problem. So this is just what our kids are dealing with. This is a small amount of what our kids are dealing with, honestly. Asthma, food allergies, eczema, cancer. The cancer rates in children is going up and up and up. Vaccine injury, which most people don't talk about. ADD and ADHD, which we know that doesn't have a diagnosis, but or it doesn't have a test to diagnose it, but it's out there. It's just a behavioral pattern that they claim to be ADD, ADHD. Autism, we are now 1 in 36. In boys, it's probably, I think it's 1 in 30 or maybe even less than that. It's more prevalent in boys. Again, what are we doing? What are we doing about it? Is anybody doing anything about it? Are we just settling for it? There's got to be a reason. In my world, anything can cause anything, so why aren't we looking at things, right? There are some places that are, but I feel like we're not pushing in enough for that. And obesity for sure. Okay, so is this your kid or your grandchild, right? For me, this is one of my grandchildren, maybe 2 of my, I have 4, maybe 2 of my grandchildren on the daily at times. They do get far too much sugar, in my opinion, but I dare to say, mothers, grandmothers out there, whatever, if you remove sugar, just sugar and food dyes from your child's diet for 2 weeks, you are going to see an amazing change in their behavior. You can't not, because the food dyes are excitotoxin in their brain. So you're punishing them because they won't sit down and listen, yet you've made it nearly impossible for them to sit down and listen because you've given them chemical toxins that excite their brain, excitotoxic, okay? Not to mention the sugar. Sugar makes them hyper, right? We all know that. I didn't realize all about sugar until I started doing this work. I mean, I knew if you ate too much sugar, you'd get a tummy ache. I mean, everybody knows that, right? But the reality is there's so much more damage that sugar does to the body that most people have no idea about, right? We will, in the beginning of the year, next year, have are we going to have another one this year, sugar talk? Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe there's a sugar talk coming up. So if you know you have a problem with sugar or somebody you know, please make sure you make it to that workshop, because it's very important to understand the why behind you staying away from sugar. Because if you don't know the why, you're not going to be as easily convinced to do that, okay? This, I don't know if you can see it, so that's why I have my computer today so I can, this was my daughter's school lunch several years ago. This was when she was little. I took a screenshot of it and saved it. So you can't see that, but on Monday, for breakfast. There's Fruit Loops, but they are the reduced sugar kind, so that's a little bit better. There's Honey Grams, and then there's grape juice, there's Craisins, and then there's choice of milk, okay? So all of that is sugar. There's literally no protein in there, and it's all sugar. And then you're gonna ask a kid to go sit down and listen to his teacher, his or her teacher. It's impossible. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. It doesn't make any sense. So thanks for the free lunches, Michigan, but if it's this crap, how is this doing our kids any good? It's not. We're setting ourselves up for failure, absolute failure. Okay. Then we have lunch. I don't know if you can see, you probably can't see this, but there's chicken dippers. They're coated in you know, what's it called? The batter, you know, the batter.
Fried.
There is broccoli, so there's hope. There's peaches, that's sugar, you know, because it's usually in the syrup, right? And then you got snickerdoodle cookie and your choice of milk. The next day for breakfast is cinnamon flakes, reduced sugar, so that's good. Maple breakfast square, I don't even know what that is. Diced peaches, orange juice, la la la, right? So do you see my point? My point is that we're failing, and we wonder why our kids are obese, right? Those statistics are pretty poor, and that's probably a couple years old, to be honest with you, okay? Kids don't move enough anymore. When I was a kid, I was outside all the time, riding my bike or climbing trees or whatever I was doing. Kids today don't do that, right? And they start out their day with that junk, and then they don't move. Sit in front of their video games and burn their retinas out. Did you guys know that? The LED lights, the blue light, so bad for our eyes. I have a cover on my TV at home, and I have a blue light blocking cover on the TV. It's weird for me to think that, I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if all this is not intentional, right? So they make us believe that these LED lights are going to save us money. Raise your hand if you have a cheaper bill because you got LED lights through your house. Me either. I didn't see a significant difference, but that's how it was sold to us, right? Now it turns out that these blue lights are very damaging to us, in our eyes especially. So now I get blue light blocking readers, and I get the covers on my TVs, and you can't find incandescent lights anymore. You can't buy them. They don't want you to have them. Is it intentional? They couldn't have not known this, right, before this whole change. Seems like people are smart. They should have known that this was a problem. I feel like that's why I have readers in the first place. Why I have to wear them to see smaller print. I shouldn't have to wear glasses. But I feel like, okay, I've probably gotten too much of the LED lights. Sad. All right, so our children, they need to move. They need to eat better. Adults, lots of adults, children, even children have acid reflux. This is not because there's a malfunction in the body. This is because we eat too much crap. This is from the standard American diet. We don't digest that crap well, and so then we reflux. We get this putrid kind of situation going on in the gut. They tell us we have too much acid. They tell us we have too much acid. Why would your body make too much acid? I don't know, unless you're poisoning yourself with the food that you're eating. That's why, perhaps, because the hydrochloric acid is kind of a byproduct of, this sodium bicarbonate that's produced in the body. But anyway, you need it there. It needs to be there. It's not the problem, but here we are taking medications and even putting little babies, newborn babies, on acid blockers because they spit up, with their formula, which is junk. Formula is mostly corn syrup and soy. It's junk, right? We need to push in heavy, heavy, heavy for mothers to nurse their babies. We've let that go by the wayside. It happened back when I was a baby. My mother told me stories of her doctor saying that she should not nurse me because it wasn't proper enough. It wasn't going to be enough for me. So she made me formula out of Karo syrup and something else. I read it right in my baby book. Like, holy cow, Mom. How did I survive? No wonder by the time I was 40, I was popping out, sickly kids and, had aches and pains everywhere and so nutritionally deficient. No wonder. But that's what they did back then, and this cycle has just kind of kept going, right? Apple cider vinegar can help. You can get the kind with the mother in it, preferably organic. But when we don't digest properly, the proteins we do eat, they putrefy. That doesn't sound very good, does it? Ew. The fats become rancid, and a lot of times, that gives us gas and bloating. People get this big old bloated belly, and they're uncomfortable, they're miserable sometimes. And carbohydrates will ferment, okay? All of that makes you very, very, very gassy if you're not digesting your food properly. Kids deal with allergies, adults deal with allergies. Everybody deals with allergies, seasonal allergies. I have seasonal allergies, the weather change, the trees blew and something's blossoming, all of these things, right? But that's a low adaptation. You're not adapting to your environment well if all of the earth bothers you, right? Allergies, the true definition of an allergy is just an undigested protein. So where do you think you need to work on if you have allergies? First and foremost, what do you need to work on? What you eat, your digestion, your gut integrity, gut health, okay? Yeah, you absolutely need that. That's the first step. But then you need to detox properly, at least through your liver. Your liver gets really congested. Sometimes our pH is too alkaline. So sometimes people have really bad allergies. They shouldn't eat a lot of citrus fruit because citrus can make you alkaline. And so then it can offset your pH. And with allergies, oftentimes the mucus is clear. So if you think you have allergies, but you're coughing up and blowing out white stuff, then maybe it's more of a fungal type problem that you're dealing with, fungal type of an immune challenge. I used to be, like I said, I used to be asthmatic, so I know what it feels like truly to not be able to breathe. People miss a lot of work and school because of asthma. I don't recall if I ever did. I probably did as a kid. It can be viral. It's definitely inflammatory. Bronchospasm definitely occurs. And what I believe truly is happening there, and I didn't learn this as a respiratory therapist, but what I believe truly is happening there is that the liver is not detoxifying properly. Phase 1, phase 2 detox of the liver is not working properly. Or maybe phase 1 is working, but phase 2 is not working. And those toxins that are supposed to go down and out of the body are getting recirculated in the blood, and they're more concentrated and more toxic at that level than they were before they hit the liver. And they're going back to the heart and lungs to get more oxygen and more, exchange it out, right? Like the circulatory system does. And the lungs are smart. They're very smart. They know those toxins are not belonging there. And so they'll spasm. They'll spasm to try to keep them out. And then they'll create a bunch of mucus for the ones that got through so that you can cough it up out the mucociliary ladder, because that's what mucus really is about, is just cleaning out the lungs, right? And so I believe that that's really what happens there, because I healed myself of asthma 10 years ago. And I did that by just cleaning out my body. I cleaned it out, I ate better, put real food in the tank, and guess what? My asthma went away, my allergies went away. I had all the shots and all the things that never really worked as a kid, but it's all gone, right? Hallelujah. So it can be done, but the doctors will tell you it's a life sentence. They will absolutely tell you it's a life sentence. Okay, avoiding milk and ice cream for some people with asthma makes things worse, makes them more congested. Avoiding processed foods for sure is a big deal, because again, the chemicals, processed foods are just chemically laden food. It's not really something that your body can tolerate too well, and then your liver is gonna not like you as much, okay? Sometimes we have structural problems in the spine that are associated with the lungs, and so getting a good chiropractic adjustment routinely is very helpful for people with asthma. Sometimes people with asthma can have adrenal dysfunction. There are definitely environmental factors. We know that people with asthma, if they go into a room where there's a bunch of cologne or fragrance sprays or things like that, they can have an exacerbation. They're just not adapting to that environment well. Heavy metals, we already talked about pH and all of that. $6.3 million people with asthma under the age of 18. This is one of the chronic illnesses, or what they call chronic illnesses, that children are dealing with today. Lots of children, obviously, and it's not getting any better. So what are we doing wrong, right? If you've got a problem and you can't solve it, what are we doing wrong? Think about the toxic load that children get from day one. Anybody know what they get on day one? They get a vaccine. They get several, actually, a couple. They get the hepatitis B vaccine on day one, not because they're at risk for hepatitis B. This was to protect them as adults, apparently, in case they were, you know, drug abusers, prostitutes, whatever. Newborn babies, perfect newborn babies on day one. They give them the hepatitis B. It's a 3-shot series, so they're going to get the other 2, but they get it on day 1 of birth. I refused it in the hospital with my son, and I got the records from the health department quite a while later, and it said that he got it. I refused it. So needless to say, I was not happy about that. Guess how long the hepatitis B vaccine was studied before it was approved? Take a guess. Less than a year? Yeah? Yeah. 5 days. 5 days. Each of the 3 shots were studied for 5 days. They only monitored 5 days. And it was a relatively small study, I think 460 people, kids. What does that tell you? I mean, is that a big wake-up call? Is that a red pill for you? It was for me. So this is where our kids are starting, right? They're not at risk. They're not at risk in school. There's no risk for them to get hepatitis B in school. So why do they need this on the childhood schedule? Why does it have to be that they have this in order to go to school? Because they can? Money? What's the reason? I don't know. All of the above? But this is where we're at. You know, the vitamin K shot has 250 micrograms of aluminum in it. Is it safe to inject 250 micrograms of aluminum and then another 250 micrograms in the Hep B shot on day 1 of birth? No. I'll tell you the answer. The answer is no. It's not safe. And yeah, that's a soapbox that I could go on and on about. But this is why we're in the situation we are. It has to be. It has to be at least part of it. Not to mention the quality of the water and the food and all the things, right? But this has to be addressed. And it is. It's becoming very apparent. The word is getting out there because the CDC's own data says just that, right? So stay tuned for more on that. But just know that if you're out there and you're about to have a baby, they don't need the hepatitis B vaccine. They don't need it. They're not at risk, and it is too dangerous. It's too dangerous. Okay. You guys get it about the asthma? That's enough about asthma, right? It is a big problem. ADD, ADHD, again, this is like 5 to 8% of school-age children have this. They get picked out by their teachers. Usually it's their teacher that says there's a problem, and then the mom gets, you know, curled into the school, and they take them to the doctor, and they get the diagnosis, whatever. But it's based on behavior alone. It's not based on any clinical testing. They use a couple common drugs. One is called Adderall. It's a stimulant, okay? And has side effects that are including sleep disorders, loss of appetite, weight loss, irritability, and tics. Sounds pleasant. That sounds really pleasant. You guys watching those commercials on TV are getting worse, aren't they? The drug commercials? They're getting worse and worse and worse. And they show people frolicking in the weed, or out in the field, you know, or they're playing with their kids at the park. But then they're listing all of these side effects, and a lot of the side effects are symptoms of the disease they're trying to help with this drug. Does this make any sense? Am I the only one that has some rational thought anymore? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You can't, you know, you can't fix something with a drug that gives you the side effects of the thing you're trying to fix, right? Parkinson's drugs, the common Parkinson's drugs out there, they have the same side effects as someone with Parkinson's. It's lunacy. I just don't even understand it. Okay, so we've got a non-stimulant drug, which is for Tara. You guys have probably heard the commercial for that, but they also have side effects: sleep problem, anxiety, fatigue, upset stomach, dizziness, dry mouth, and liver damage. That sounds great for my kid. Let's just damage his liver right now. All right. Here's a list of things to avoid at all costs. You want to take a screenshot of that with your phone, go right ahead. But we're going to talk about processed meats, the soy protein, the hydrogenated oils. Those are all your seed oils. So the canola of the world, the corn oils, the soybean oil, the safflower, sunflower, corn oil, all of those. Just cook with real butter. Just cook with butter, or maybe just go back to grandma's time and cook with lard or beef tallow, because it's real stuff. It's, you know, it's not been processed like a lot of these oils are. These oils are rancid. They don't tolerate heat well, and so they're going to make you inflamed and sicker. Okay, white sugar, high fructose corn syrup, that's the HFCS. That's in everything. You got to look at your labels. You have to learn how to read labels. You can't just trust the front of the packaging. You have to turn the box over or the bag over and look at the label. Look at the actual ingredients, because you're going to find some of this stuff. Artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, those are neurotoxin, and they don't belong in the body. The body's not going to like it. Your brain's not going to like it. You just need to get it out. Artificial flavors, artificial colors, anything that says low fat, low sugar, stay away from. It's a chemical crap storm, because they got to put something in there to make it palatable if they take out the fat and the sugar, right? And that's going to be chemical, and so you're going to want to stay away from that. Breakfast foods. This is the number one meal that most of my patients struggle with, and they need help with, is breakfast, because they're used to all the cereals and all the things, and their oatmeals and their overnight oats and all of the, you know, pancakes and the waffles and the muffins, and some people just eat donuts for breakfast, right? Your body runs on protein first, healthy fats next, and then some veggies. Your body runs on protein first, healthy fats next, and then some veggies. Okay? Memorize that, because that's how you're going to feel your best, and your kids are going to behave their best, and they're going to be able to think through school and sit still for a period of time. If you feed them first protein and then healthy fats, and then some veg. Okay? So for breakfast, for instance, you could make them an omelet. You could ground up, fry up some ground beef, throw an egg or two in the middle of that, scramble it all up, throw some cheese on top. They're going to be full through lunch. They'll be fine, right? You give them cereal, they're going to be hungry before the first hour is over. You give them toast, French toast, they're going to be hungry within an hour before the first hour is over with. Okay? Ezekiel bread is a good option compared to other breads, because it's not made into flour. So it's going to retain all of its phytonutrients and the things you need to break it down with. Okay? Versus the processed bread, which is just going to sit in your gut and ferment, right? We learned that carbohydrates ferment. It's going to sit there, it's going to ferment. And then you're going to have GERD up or gas and bloating down. This is what's going to happen. We talked about healthy oils. There's some examples of coconut oil. You can cook with that too. That has high flash point. Flaxseed oil, a lot of people put that in smoothies. They get flaxseed oil in smoothies, butter, ghee. Ghee is a clarified butter, if you've never heard of that. Olive oil, fish oil, all the things. Here's a list of what to drink. Most people, they drink, adults, they can drink coffee all day long. Don't really drink water, wonder why they don't feel good. They're chronically dehydrated, right? They're probably not drinking the best quality coffee either. For kids, it's juice. They start the day with juice and they have milk and chocolate milk at school for breakfast. They have chocolate milk again for lunch. And then they come home and they have dinner and they may have a pop or they might have more juice. You see what I'm saying? They've got this sugar roller coaster all day long, all day long. And for us adults, that gives us brain fog. It makes our joints hurt. It makes our stomach hurt. For kids, they're hyper. They can't sit down. They can't learn. They don't sleep as well. You know, they get constipated easily. I mean, it's just it's a nightmare. So you got to know what you know about sugar in the diet, particularly in drinks, because most people don't think about it. And some things, such as kombucha, right? People like kombucha. I'm not opposed to kombucha, but there is sugar in kombucha. And most bottles of kombucha are 2 servings, but people will drink the whole thing at once, right? Because they don't look at the bottle. You have to look at their labels. You have to look at them. And some kombucha has way higher sugar content than others. So you have to know that, okay? Last week I had the pleasure of going to one of our supplement companies called Standard Process, their farm. And that was a really great experience for me because I help people with their supplements all the time, like literally every day. And so I had this experience when I was younger, my daughter, who you saw there, she was 5, she was having UTI symptoms. So I took her to the doctor and they did a urinalysis, it was negative. My medical mind was like, she's totally got a UTI, but they wouldn't treat it. So the doctor wrote her a note to her teacher so that she could go every 2 hours on schedule. He thought, well, maybe there's something going on and she's anxious about it or whatever. Well, she was wet in her pants and she wanted to go every 10 minutes, so that didn't do us any good. So I took her back the next week or so, I took her back and they did another urinalysis and again it was negative. And so the doctor was at a loss. He said, I'm going to send you out to peds urology at MSU. And I said, okay, let's go. Well, I don't know if you've ever been to a specialist office, but it takes several weeks to get into that, even especially nowadays, right? But back then, even it was still quite a while to get in. So I take her to the specialist office. Again, they do a urinalysis. Again, it's negative. I'm frustrated. It's been a month. My daughter is suffering. It affects the whole family. We can't go anywhere because she's crying at me in the car that she's got to go, even though she just went. Do you see what I'm saying? And so at the time I was dabbling in natural healthcare. This was way before I knew anything about what I do today. But I was dabbling and I was listening to this doctor, this naturopath on YouTube, and I was fascinated, absolutely fascinated by his videos. And I was learning from him. He was doing this weird thing called muscle testing. I was totally fascinated by it. And so I go to the specialist office. Again, the urinalysis is negative. Doctor's like, it could be A, B, C, or D. Gives me a chart. Wants me to fill this chart out. When she gets up in the morning, what time she moves, what time she pees, all this stupid stuff. And says, come back in a month. No solution. Just come back in a month. I think my jaw just hit the floor. Like, what? You can't be serious, right? You wouldn't treat it. In hindsight, I'm grateful that he didn't, because she would have had to have a round of antibiotics. Nonetheless, I get to my car and I call my husband and I said, I'm not bringing her back here. I'm going to take her to this naturopath because I found out where he was and he was within driving distance from me. And I took her there. He muscle tested her. He put her on standard processed supplements, which is the product company that I went to their farm last week. And she got better in 4 days with whole food supplement, not antibiotic, whole food supplement. She got better in 4 days. By the end of the next week, she was 100% back to normal. And that's what led me to even be here tonight. Because had I not done that, had I not had the eyes to see and the ears to hear back then, I wouldn't have made that jump, that leap of faith, because that's what it was for me. It was something very different, but I knew in my mind, in my heart, that he could help her, and he did help her. So when I went back, I asked him, how do I do this weird muscle testing thing? How do I do it? And he sent me where I needed to go for training. Isn't that a cool story? There's more. While at the farm last Friday, I ran into that very doctor. He was there on the same tour I was. And it was a very special moment. I was very emotional about it, because had it not been for him, and had it not been for the videos that I watched and learned from, I never would have known that this even existed. Very cool story, right? Yeah. Okay. His name was Randy Tent. Randy Tent. Yep. Okay. Where are we at now? We went through what to drink, what to eat. Where do I start? Okay, it starts with moms, dads, whoever's responsible, grandma and grandpa. Some grandma and grandpas raise their grandchildren. But it starts with us adults. And like I said before, when mama bear gets better, it trickles down to baby bears. It just does, right? Because mama learns, mama knows better. She knows how to care for herself better. Plus she's an example for her kids and her husband oftentimes. And so that if you get the husband on board and you got both parents on board, the kids will get better, because it's inevitable. It's a domino effect of health instead of a domino effect of chronic illness, which is where we're at today, which is why I'm so passionate about getting kids healthy. I would love nothing more than growing a baby in the womb, helping a woman have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy delivery. That brings me so much joy, because I didn't have that, you see? I didn't have that pleasure of having a really healthy pregnancy. My second pregnancy was much better, but I was still preeclamptic. I still had to have another C-section, right? But that's why I'm so passionate. It's so important to me, because we are losing the battle. 54% of our kids are already chronically ill. That's a lose. That's a big L, right? So if I don't do it, who will? Right? If my patients don't refer, right, how are we going to win? If we don't get amazing marketing from our marketer, how are people going to know that we even exist, right? If I don't do Facebook Lives on my workshops, how are people going to know that there's other help out there? Because there are desperate mothers out there, desperate fathers that just need help. I had a new patient, desperate parents yesterday, just need help for their kid. And I'm going to help her. And then I'm going to celebrate her wins, right? Because that's what we do. We get to celebrate wins with people. Because people come to us after having been everywhere else. To every doctor, they've had every test, they've had every poke and prod you could imagine, and no answers. 0 answers. That's a fail. We're supposed to be a superpower with the best of the best, aren't we? Don't get me wrong, if I get smucked out here on Saginaw, you better take me to the hospital. They're going to put me back together, right? Prefer McLaren. Sorry, Sparrow, but I prefer McLaren. I worked there for 20 years. I'm biased. But when it comes to my overall health, I'm going to take responsibility for that, because they don't know what to do. I've seen it time that they don't know. All they're doing is trying to mask symptoms and throw and see what sticks at the wall, right? And then you have all the side effects of all these medications. We know that. We hear it on the TV. The TV tells us, but there are people who are still going to call their doctor on Monday and ask for a Strattera or Ozempic or whatever, right? Whatever the next crazy thing is. We have to do things gradiently for ourselves. Not everybody can just turn their life upside down and completely eat differently right away. We have to do things gradiently. We have to learn why we're doing it, and we just have to implement it gradiently. Because you and me, we're Mercedes-Benz and we just don't know it. God made you beautifully. You're a Mercedes-Benz, and we feed ourselves like a hoopty. And that's not okay, right? Years ago, my first son-in-law, he got a tax return and he needed a car, and he went to one of those used car lots, you know, the little ones, and there was a Mercedes-Benz on the lot, and he bought it for, I think, $800. The thing still ran. I don't remember the year or how many miles, but it was in one piece and it still ran, so he thought it was cool because he had a Mercedes-Benz, right? Little did he know that he was supposed to put high octane gas in it. He was supposed to put 92, 93 octane. Premium stuff. He didn't know that. So the first time he had to fill it up with gas, he put 87 in it. Needless to say, it didn't go much further than that. Because he didn't have money to fix it. I don't even know if he can fix it. I don't know. He probably can, but that's what I'm talking about with us. Maybe it's not so abrupt, but through the course of our life, if we're feeding ourselves like a hoopty, are we going to have good outcomes with our health? No. We're going to suffer. We're going to suffer greatly, and needlessly. We just don't know what we don't know, right? So we have to learn. If you have kids, if you're a parent out there, you have kids and they don't like the asparagus and they don't like the broccoli, just keep trying. You know, sometimes as they get older, their palates change. They'll experiment with new things. My son is still learning how to eat new things that he thinks are gross, right? Yeah. So don't give up on them. They'll eventually come around, and if you need to, just slather it with lots of butter and garlic maybe and salt, good salt. Anybody can eat anything with that. I mean, I can even eat kale with that. I don't like kale, right? So be creative with it. What are you focused on first when you're eating? What comes first? Protein and healthy fats and some veg, right? If you fill up on protein and healthy fat, I don't think any of us eat enough protein, real animal protein. Not enough of us eat enough protein. We women, we think that the shakes are cool and like, we got the shake, I've got my shake, right? I think we just need to eat meat and eggs and butter. And then if we need something else, we can have some veg, right? You're gonna get a lot of good quality nutrients from red meat particularly, and eggs and butter, right? And then we just don't know what we don't know. So experiment, keep trying. So kids adults need this too, by the way. They need good sleep. Like right now through the summer, my son's been pushing the limit, trying to stay up later, and then I'll catch him up too late, and he'll give me the excuse, oh, I didn't know what time it was. What do you mean you don't know what time it was, right? So they need sleep. Kids need 10 hours of sleep a night, 8 to 10, but preferably 10. They're growing. All kinds of things are happening during sleep that you don't realize that are important for them to grow and develop properly. And they need structure, right? They need routine schedule. They need to play, physically play. My granddaughter found an old pogo stick in my garage. I don't know where this thing came out of. I don't know how she found it. It's all rusty. She's trying for the life of her to jump on this pogo stick, and it's like, it's so rusty. So I'm gonna get out the WD-40, see if I can get that working for her again, because I loved to pogo stick when I was a kid. I would sit there with my neighbor who lived across the street. We were best friends when we were kids, and we would jump and we'd see who could stay on the longest, and we'd count as high as we could go. It was entertainment. It was fun to me, right? Kids don't get to do that anymore. Like my kids had that pogo stick, but they didn't enjoy it as much as I did. I remember enjoying it. Okay, limit the Xbox, PlayStation. Please, please, please get a blue light blocker for those screens. Even for your phone, you can get blue light blocking screen protectors for your phone. That's important. We got to protect our eyes because the government is not going to do that for us, apparently. That's not important. And they need downtime, they need quiet time, maybe reading a book, encouraging to read, right? Kids who read more, they know more words, they know more vocabulary, they can write better, all the things, right? Kids are not reading anymore because everything is read for them, they can't spell anymore because everything's spelled for them, right? I can't spell anymore because I'm typing all the time and I don't, you ever think about that? Like, how do you spell that word? Is that right? Am I the only one? You get rid of that muscle memory. I had to write a check for the first time in a long time today. I wrote a check. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could barely write. It's like, I don't have that muscle memory anymore of writing because I'm typing all the time. We're kind of doing ourselves a disservice, I think. I mean, it's fine to have that technology, but we got to keep the old school skills also, I think, right? Here are some helpful websites to understand food. WestonAPrice.org, that's with Dr. Price that I told you about. That's a great website for some information. The one at the very bottom, the Smith Family Farm, that's my personal farmer. And if you need meat, if you need a good quality source of meat, they do deliver in this area a couple times a month. So they will come right to your home and drop it off. You can put me down as a reference because they always ask how who referred you, and they'll give me an extra pound of ground beef, which I will gladly take because I eat a lot of it, and they will give you an extra pound of ground beef. Okay? If you like raw milk, if you want raw milk, go to rawmilk.com. You usually got to buy into a cow share in order to get raw milk, but legally, because again, your government doesn't want you to have raw milk. You can have McDonald's all you want, but you cannot have raw milk. In fact, there's a farm in northern Michigan where they raided the farm and made them dump out all their raw milk and butter and cheese. A technicality, not even anything wrong with their product. It was a technicality on their license or something. Pretty sad. Lots of product they had to dispose of. That kind of crap infuriates me, Leave the farmers alone. If you're not getting any complaints about them being harmed, leave them alone. So ridiculous, right? We can go down the street and buy vape pens and poison ourselves. We can buy all the alcohol we want. We can get fentanyl on the black market if we want, but we can't have raw milk. Ridiculous. There's my soapbox too. All right, I thought I'd throw this in there. Not to brag, but my kids' palates are so refined that they think they're going to hate dinner before they even taste it. Right? I don't like that. What do you mean you don't like that? I just asked my son that about something the other day. He didn't like it. I'm like, how do you know you don't like it? Have you ever had it? No. I think it was goat cheese stuffed peppadew peppers. Yeah, they're delicious. I get them at Monticello's out in Hazlitt, and I'm like, they're so good, you should try one. No, I don't like that. How do you not? How do you know? Dude, you haven't even tried it. Okay. So because we talked about asthma and allergies a lot, this could be true for any symptom that you may have or your children and grandchildren may have. But anytime we have symptoms, such as allergies and asthma, we have certain nutritional deficiencies every single time. And every time we're nutritionally deficient, we can safely assume we have organs that are not functioning properly. So this is a vicious, vicious cycle that starts way young, especially for today's kids, but even for me. I started at, I think I was 6 when I found out I was asthmatic. But I ate a ton of sugar. As I got older and I was a teenager, I drank Mountain Dew before school. I would go to the pop shop, what I call Pop Shop, and I got myself a glass bottle of Mountain Dew, and I just aged myself, but that's okay. And that's what I drank on my way to school, right? And I probably had another one afterwards on my way to dance or whatever. But I became very nutritionally deficient from all the sugar that I ate, and I had organs not functioning properly, i.e. probably my liver and my lungs and my lymphatic system and all the things, because I wasn't I didn't know what I didn't know back then about my health, okay? And my parents didn't know. So this is a vicious cycle, and what happens is it's downward spiral in a sense. And the symptoms come more often, and they're more severe. More often and more severe. And what we need is a halt to that. And so I'm happy to tell you that I have the halt right here. This is the halt. This is what we do. We halt the progression of dis-ease. And then we try to work backwards and get people to heal, right? And reverse the damage that they've done, right? That's the whole goal. That's healing. That's how you're designed. You just got to put in the things you're deficient with. So that's what my testing really tells us. I can identify those things, those specific nutrients. And that's going to turn your organs back on, and they're going to function better for you. And if you remove one, think about geometry and triangles. It might give you a headache to think about that. But if you alter one side of a triangle, you're going to alter the other two sides, right? One corner, you're going to alter the other two corners. Same is true for this. If I put deficient nutrition into you that you need, and your organs start working, guess what? Your symptoms are going to get better. It has to. It's geometry, right? And that's what we do. That's exactly what we were able to do. Sugar does the same thing. We talked about that. But every time we have sugar, we are giving ourselves some nutritional deficiencies. And if we're deficient, guess what? We're going to have some organs that are not going to work as well as we need them to. And so we have to become aware. We have to bring up awareness on that and leave the sugar alone. How do we leave the sugar alone? You eat protein and healthy fat and some veg. And if you do that long enough, you're going to stop craving the sugar. You'll leave it alone because you're going to be uber satisfied with your protein, your healthy fat, and your veg. Uber satisfied. You're not even going to need to snack, right? If you have a big salad, you better put some protein on that salad and some healthy fat, right? Otherwise, you're going to be hungry. You're going to be hungry in an hour. Nutrition response testing. It's just a tool. It's just a tool that I use to identify things like nutritional deficiencies. It's just a tool to help me to identify what organs are not functioning optimally for you. It's just a tool. But it's designed clinical nutrition. It's designed specifically for you. It's not cookie cutter. If you go to the hospital today in heart failure, and somebody else comes into the hospital right next to you in heart failure, you're going to be treated exactly the same with the exception of your known drug allergies, right? You're both going to get a catheter, you're going to get an IV, you're going to have an EKG, you're going to have an x-ray, you're going to get a diuretic, and you're going to pee off a bunch of fluid, and then they're going to admit you probably overnight and then send you home. McLaren Greater Lansing and the whole McLaren system is still under cyber attack right now. Did you know that? Talk about a crap show. I'd hate to be a patient right now. I hate to say that, but it's scary. That's scary. I think electronic medical records was the worst thing we ever did. Didn't have to worry about that stuff when we were paper charting, right? Scary. The bottom line is it's designed clinically for you, absolutely for you, based on your needs, okay? What we're all looking for is overall health, and that makes sense, but we're not going to get there easily. Long gone are the days that my grandmother enjoyed. You have to be intentional. We're in a war. We're in a war for our collagen as well. You know what collagen is? It's the most abundant protein in the body. It's responsible for our scaffolding, basically. It's our structure, our bones. All organs are coated in collagen. We're super deficient in collagen. Why? Because of the glyphosate in our environment. It destroys our collagen. So you have to know where the glyphosate is, right? It's in all your grains. You got to stay away from the grains. If they're not organic, you got to stay away from them. You're going to break down sooner. You're going to get that osteoporosis diagnosis sooner. You're gonna tear ligaments sooner. You're gonna have that rotator cuff problem sooner. Does that make sense? You're gonna have sagging skin sooner, right? When people think of collagen, they just think of skin, hair, and nails, right? Oh, I wanna age gracefully. Give me some collagen. But it's so much more important than that. And we're in a war for our collagen because of the glyphosate in our environment. It's a big, big deal. So long gone are the days. So I've given you a lot of nuggets. That's where I want you to take action with it, right? So if you out there in Facebook land or here, if you're not currently on a nutrition program, I don't think it's just you here. Now's the time to take action, right? You guys are young enough that if you start prioritizing your health today, now you're not going to deal with some of the things that your elders deal with, right? The chronic illness that they deal with, that you see, right? We all have people in our lives, in our circles, who are not well, and we want to help them, but maybe we can't because they don't feel like they can be helped, or they want to just go see their doctor and stay with their doctor. That's fine. But if we plant seeds in these people from time to time, eventually they may wake up and go, you know what? I'm going to do that weird thing. I'm going to go where you go and do that weird thing because I can see the changes in you, right? I want your type of health. I want quality to my life. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to suffer with this big Ziploc bag, gallon-sized bag of pharmaceuticals, right? I don't feel any better. I hear it all the time. I heard it when I worked in the hospital. I hear it now with current patients that when they come. Now's the time. It's the time to make a decision to take action, right? Because we really have three outcomes in life, you and me, okay? The first outcome is we're going to grow older, but we're going to die early, maybe heart attack or cancer, whatever, right? Cancer rates are on the rise, skyrocketing right now, absolutely skyrocketing. We're going to leave our family wondering if we could have done anything different, right? Like shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Those are terrible. That feeling is terrible. I've had that feeling. It's regret. It's shoulda, oh man, I should have done that. I could have done that. What if I only did that, right? Second option is we're going to grow older, maybe into our 80s, right? But we're going to be needing full-time care, perhaps in a nursing home, perhaps in a diaper, perhaps not even knowing who our visitors are that are our children, not really recognizing them, right? That happens far too often as well. Or the third option is you're going to have longevity like my dear grandmother, who had she not fallen and broken her back, she would still be here today because she had longevity. She was overall healthy for her age. She would go dancing twice a week, you know. And we're going to maybe just go to sleep one night and not wake up, or sit in our rocking chair on our front porch, go to sleep and not wake up. Hallelujah, right? So what option are you guys wanting? I mean, I'm a number 3 all day. That's my goal. I work really hard at that. That's my longevity goal. I may or may not get it, but I know I'm going to put in the effort. I'm going to put in the work because I deserve it, just like every one of you. You deserve to be healthy, and you will be healthy, right? Time and repetition is what it takes, for sure, but it's worth it because the goal is longevity. Nobody wants to be a burden on their family. I certainly don't. I don't want to be a burden on my kids. So I'm going to do whatever I can to prevent that, right? Whatever I can, because I don't want to burden them with a sickly parent. Yeah. All right, any questions? No? Okay, well, so, yeah.
I do have one.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
What training? I know about the respiratory
Yeah.
therapist because we see each other every week and love the product. You're wonderful.
Thank you.
Above and beyond, you started this journey. What training, certifications?
Yeah, that's a good question. I went to a private company called UNS, Uline Nutritional Systems, and that's where I got my training. But there's several places to train, you know. You just have to kind of look it up. There's different types of muscle testing. There's lots of different types. You know, there's contact reflex analysis, there's morphogenetic field technique, quantum nutrition testing. There's all kinds of types. And so just whatever works, you know, whatever interests you. But I would tell you that if you're interested in getting into this type of work, you really do need at least anatomy and physiology background, some sort of class in that, because you have to know where the pieces, parts are and how they work in order to clinically think for your patient while you're doing the work. So, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so what I really want to do is offer you an action step. Okay, and this is true for you out in Facebook land as well. Offer you an action step, because if you truly want to be healthy, you have to prioritize your health, and you have to start now. Time is of the essence. You have to start now, and you have to be intentional. Okay, even if it's just a little bit. You don't have to go full bore, but you just need a little bit of help. We can help you. So you call the office tomorrow, or you sign up tonight with me. You get on my schedule. I'll give you a discount because it's so important for me that you take action. I want to entice you to just jump, take action. You can leave a comment in the Facebook feed, and we'll have staff call you, whatever it is. Okay. So my initial assessment's normally $200, but because of tonight, and if you're watching, we appreciate it, and you want to share this with your friends and family, please share this and get the word out. Okay. It's very discounted at $75. It's a 2-visit assessment. The first is the clinical stuff. It's paperwork and clinical testing that looks like a heart rate variability study, which is a study of your overall physiological health in your nervous system, as well as a body composition analysis, which is, you know, the body composition, your fat percentage, muscle, bone, what your weight is, all the things, water. And then the clinical testing for me to design the program just for you, okay? To find out all the things and build a program just for you. And then you come back on the second visit and we have what's called report of findings. So we're gonna report to you our clinical findings so you have a good understanding of what that means and how our program can help you and what the supplements are for and what the fee schedule is, so all of those things, right? So then you can give me the green light and let's get started, right? And then we'll just get started. So that's what that looks like. So please, please, please consider taking action, because I don't want you 5 years from now thinking back to this day when you were watching live or you're here. I don't want you 5 years from now having that shoulda, coulda, woulda moment, because really we know what to do and we know how to do it. We have the answers. We've got the track record, right? So take action, okay? And let's have a healthier, happier rest of the year, right? And into the next year, because why not? Why not? You deserve it. All right, guys, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. If anybody has any other questions, I'll be here for a while to kind of wrap things up. Thanks for coming.